Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Dojo Live. This is Tulio Sergusa, broadcasting from Southern California. Today is Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. And I'm joined by Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico, and Carlos Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be
Hey.
here.
Today's guest is Stefan Kalb, who is with Shelf Engine. And we're going to be talking about something that's probably top of mind for many of us. We all have to go grocery shopping, right? Whether you go in person or you use Amazon Fresh or Instacart, chances are you can't go a week or two without doing some grocery shopping. But can grocers compete with companies like Amazon? And that's the question we're going to answer today with Stefan. But before we go and introduce the topic of the show, let's get to know Stefan a little bit. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me on the show. Really excited to be able to have the conversation with you guys and all your listeners today. Real pleasure. So just to kick things off and for all those to know, I am absolutely obsessed with groceries. If we start talking about the landscape of grocery stores, we will go very deep. So thanks for starting off on a personal introduction before we start talking about the minute differences of different distribution centers and planograms and so forth.
So I can totally see every time you walk into a grocery store, you're immediately criticizing, analyzing, and what they're doing well, what they could be doing.
I can't shop like everybody else, right? Like, I don't think people understand the experience that I have when I go into a grocery store.
It's like actors when they watch a movie, they can't pay
Exactly.
attention to what's going on. They're wondering if the direction's good, if the acting is good. The rest of us enjoy it, but anyway, go ahead, Stefan.
Yep, exactly. So my name is Stefan Kalb. I am in Seattle, and I grew up in Europe. I grew up in France. Lived a good chunk of my childhood in France and got to learn and see the food system in France. And then had this wonderful opportunity to move to the United States, to the Pacific Northwest. I fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. It is an absolutely incredible region in the United States. And there's one thing that, I got discovered pretty quickly was what was happening with the food system and the different standards between France and the United States. I went to school and got a degree that is a fairly unique degree, which is in actuarial science. And actuarial science is essentially
English, please, not French. I'm kidding.
Exactly. It's basically math and probability. And so you're trying to come up with what is the chance of certain outcomes happen. And actuarial science, most specifically, usually is within insurance. Mm-hmm. So you price things like auto insurance and health insurance and so forth. That world is absolutely fascinating because
Along came Polly. That's what he does, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I get it
Yeah,
now.
thanks. Now I think you just made the link for a lot of people who now understand.
I dumbed it down for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. A real fascination from my standpoint on the idea of how do you predict the future and how do you price certain events and how do you think about those aspects. And so that's what's landed me into surprisingly into the world of food. Is just coming out of college, I was really fascinated with the food landscape. And in France, they have really quite remarkable grab and go food. And I really I found this to be something that just did not exist in a major way in the United States. And so I decided to launch a food company when I was 23 years old. And really, that was an incredible experience. It was a very difficult experience. I got to understand how the food system worked in the nitty gritty and how to be able to perform it. I have an immense amount of respect for those entrepreneurs and those business owners who have been able to create and build a successful food company. And, that's everywhere from the restaurants that we eat at to the grocery stores we go to. I did that for about a decade and eventually sold that company. It was again, a wonderful experience, extremely difficult. You are in a very commoditized market. You have to fulfill quite a few needs to be able to even function on a day-to-day basis, and then let alone be able to compete and to perform well. And so that's what eventually inspired me to co-found Shelf Engine, is to see what is actually happening in the food system, which I'm sure we'll go into plenty of stories and anecdotes. But it's a system that we all depend on, and I think many of us take for granted, honestly. It is a very large and complex system. So anyway, I apologize for going a little long on that.
No, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. One thing I've learned is anyone using a crystal ball to predict the future is just a wannabe actuary scientist. All right, talk to us about Shelf Engine. What is the company all about? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Shelf is a very unique kind of business. What we do, if you look at us from the outside perspective, is we do demand forecasting for grocery stores. And it's a completely automated AI. So if you are a grocery buyer and you order dairy products or produce, what you do is you have to go and walk the store and make a bunch of decisions how much you order. Shelf Engine completely automates that. The unique part of what Shelf does is that we literally guarantee our results to the grocery store. So what that means is that we order on behalf of the grocery store. We order the bread, we order the dairy, we order the produce, right? We pay the vendors for everything to deliver, but we only charge the store for what actually sells. And this is quite unique in the sense that most stores use some sort of software or some sort of system to be able to address this very challenge. We've come to the market and said, we will do this and we will guarantee you massive results. Now,
I've never seen someone so confident.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. And we have to be very confident in what we do, given our business model.
Interesting. So, all right, let's go right into it. I have a million questions. Let's go right into the topic. Carlos, let's introduce the topic and dig in.
Of course. Thank you, Tulio. And of course, thanks to Stefan for being with us today. So, Tulio, Kim, today we're going to be answering one question. And the question is, can grocers compete with Amazon? So we're going to be looking at how AI and smart technology are shaping the supermarkets of the future. Now, that's the topic for today. So first question that I have for you, Stefan, is why did you choose this particular topic for today's conversation? And why did you feel it was somehow relevant for today's day and age? Let's start with that. Thank you.
Yeah, there's several reasons that I think this is a really meaningful topic. The first one is that Amazon's taking a lot of market share. And if you call any grocery executive today, what's the number one concern is market share. It's a highly commoditized industry, and market share is almost everything for these stores, right? So we recognize that. The second thing is that Amazon is doing something that is innovative, and it is challenging the method in which the grocery industry functions. That starts triggering all sorts of major questions for us. And we also understand that, like, what does grocery look like for the long term if this kind of innovation truly works? Finally, the reason why I chose this topic is because it uncovers and opens up the Pandora's box in terms of what's happening in this industry. And everybody's a little bit scared, right? They recognize the fact that Amazon is working and it's working well. And they're asking themselves, how does this look in the future? And so I think this is going to open up a very interesting conversation.
And that's been like light speed effect with COVID and the pandemic, I'm sure.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably got to been very difficult, at least at the beginning of last spring, to have predicted the demand that a lot of grocers had. I'm curious, just to help the audience understand, just maybe let's talk about what the problem is that you guys are solving. I read somewhere on your site that almost 40% of like sandwiches go unsold or go to waste for a deli. So they don't have a predictive way to determine what the demand's going to be that day, and obviously you're trying to speed up the way you serve clients, so you prepare a lot of things, and apparently things go to waste. So, what's the problem that you guys are solving? Is that one of them, or is there more? Can you break down the challenge that grocers face?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's okay, I want to take a step back because that question that you ask is actually pertinent to a very large momentum that is happening in the grocery space, which is that sandwiches are part of this very big movement of having way more fresh items on the shelves, and that they are continually fresher. So if you take a step back into the past and you look at the very first grocery store that opened in 1916 in the United States, that was a Piggly Wiggly, and basically nothing in that store was fresh. And for a long time, a lot of grocery stores that opened there forward, nothing was fresh. The stuff that lasted months, sometimes years, right? Now today, if you walk into a modern grocery store, on average, about 60% of that product is fresh, highly perishable, right? You walk
Does
into
this
some
have
of
to
your
do with people up until that point having their own gardens, or
Well, you
yeah.
went
what
to the
was that
farm to get your
transition?
food.
To the farm, like direct
Farm
farm
to
to table,
table.
or what? Okay.
Yeah. Well, in the past, in the grocery store, what you had is you didn't have a produce department, you didn't have a cheesemonger, you didn't have a butcher, right? Those were separate places that you would go to, and you have different agreements, and you would work with them in different ways. And the aggregation of all these different departments into a single place to shop is wonderful for a consumer, extremely challenging for a grocery store, right? The average grocery store in
Got it.
1970 had about 7,000 SKUs in it. The average grocery store today has about 40,000 SKUs. If you can imagine the amount of complexity that goes into having that many different items in a single place, right? You have to solve all these very complex solutions. Sorry, this is again long-winded, Tulio, but this is a very important point in terms of what's happening on in the grocery front. What we really solve for the grocery store is this ability to continue to add more and more fresh items, to have fresher items, and not to be killed by all the waste that is created there. So if you look at a grocery store today, you're going to have very little waste on a box of cereal or canned good. And you're going to have a very high waste on items that are, 1 day shelf life, 3 day shelf life. And the reason is that it's way harder to predict the kind of demand that you're going to get in any given day. And us as consumers really care about having products on the shelves. I think we've all had this where we walk into the store, there's this item that we want, and it's not there. And we throw a fit. How is this possible, right? The American grocery store recognizes how important it is to have these products in stock. So at shelf, we resolve these two very problems for the store, which we say, we will come in and we are going to make you way more money by decreasing your waste. And we're going to have more product available for your consumers, such that they come in happier because their products are there, and your sales go up because your products are actually available, right? And this is a nice segue into another very interesting topic, which I'm sure you're going to bring up in a little bit. If you take a look at all the grocery delivery businesses out there, right, like the Instacarts and the Amazon of the world, the reality is that those delivery options are actually about 15% of the products that they are sent to go get. They can't grab because they're not on the shelves. That's what's happening in terms of out of stocks. That's one of the major challenges of the stores.
Yeah, so you guys have figured out the formula, less is more. Go ahead, Carlos. I like it.
Yeah, thank you, Tulio. there's a burning question that I have for you, Stefan, because okay, we're discussing how to improve perishable food forecasting, right? So that's the essentials of what Shell does, right? And in this process that you're describing, I'm just wondering if there's at all times we are discussing the food itself and how to keep it fresh and make the best of it and just avoid waste. However, in the process of keeping the food fresh, there's a lot of packaging involved. There's a lot of plastic waste that is involved necessarily. So, have you envisioned the possibility or a possible scenario in which we can use technologies like AI and smart technology to at least make that to foster that convergence of keeping the food fresh, but at the same time try to avoid as much as possible the overuse of one-time use plastics or plastic packaging to decrease the impact in the environment? I'm just guessing because for me it is sort of an obsession. It's like I don't like to go to supermarkets because I don't only see the food, I always see like potentially like a ton of garbage, right, of plastic
Yep.
waste. So is there any way that you can use this technology or services and platforms like Shelf to actually contribute to diminish the impact of plastic waste or other types of waste that might get in the way?
Yeah, listen, this is a huge problem, right?
Yeah.
I think we've come to this point where in the last 30 to 40 years, we've had more and more of our food packaged up in these neat little packages with more and more packaging. And
I've seen photos of bananas. Bananas. A banana on a styrofoam plate wrapped in saran wrap. Like it
and-
comes with
and-
its own like organic package already. Like what is happening?
Oh, it's just the beginning. Honestly, the future of food, many people are thinking about packaging and how it looks. It's a massive waste of resources. There's no question about it. From our standpoint, and actually, there's a lot of other complexities. So, I think Carlos, you're bringing up something that's interesting. But if you look at, for example, food waste, why does a lot of the food waste go into the garbage can? Because they can't separate out the food from the packaging. So you essentially have a situation where that food could be animal feed. That food could be composted. But no, because it's too much work to get the packaging out of there, it's just thrown away into a trash can. I walk into stores across the country and I look at, the first thing I do is I go to the back of the store where the deliveries are. If you go to the back of a store around 9 p.m., there are huge trash bins there filled with this product that just didn't sell that day. And it's all packaged in this plastic saran wrap kind of stuff. It is
And then there's
insane.
this other layer, this like legal layer, since I think we've all gotten so sue happy that the workers can't even take it home. You can't donate it to a homeless shelter. You can't do that because if somebody happens to get sick or whatever, this and that came from the Piggly Wiggly and they're a multi-million billion-dollar company, cha-ching. So they just throw it away.
Totally. And even if all the systems are in place, to be completely honest, in many of the circumstances, they'll just throw it away because that's the easy thing to do. Or that manager just wasn't trained. It didn't see that. The fact that all this stuff is packaged like this is sincerely a massive issue.
So the good news is we've got companies like you, Shelf Engine, working toward minimizing waste. And hopefully this is going to have like a reverse snowball effect where we can then get more to these core other also large issues. But with Shelf Engine itself, you mentioned this guarantee early on in the show that whatever goes to waste will cover that cost. So your technology must be very impressive. But my question also is, at what point are you able to hit go? Considering this is, artificial intelligence, you've got to have some data to work on before, I'm guessing, you can hit that promise. How much study time do you require of your grocers until you're ready to give them the data, the analytics, and the benefit that they're hoping for?
Yeah. So I love that term. I might steal that from you, Kim, which is the study time, giving our AI the study time. So you brought up, I think, a couple of very important points. The first one is, the fact is we take on all of the burden of the forecasting and the ordering. The store literally doesn't have to take this on anymore. The only reports that we send them is how much more money they're making and how much their waste is decreasing, right? So we're not creating any extra work. If anything, we're reducing their workload significantly. When we launch with a store, we ingest years of historical data. So we take in their point of sale data, and usually we try to get at least 2 years worth. And then we absorb a lot of other data, also external sets of data that are historical to understand these things. And if we ever want to geek out, I'm very happy to do so right now. But there are a lot of different factors that go into play depending on the store, right? And so a given store, say, has a school next door. Well, when that school is open during the regular school year, you're going to see very different sales patterns than if it's closed during the summer, right? Weather is going to impact different stores differently. All that stuff we know by the first day that we launch with a store. And this is absolutely critical that we are able to do so, right? We're in over 3,000 stores nationwide now. To be able to go at that rate, you need to be able to have all this historical data.
Are you able to also integrate and give ideas of stores of perhaps products that they're not currently selling that they should sell? It makes sense to me, like you're selling this, it's not selling it, just take it off the shelf, forget about it. But what about studies of neighboring stores or trends that are coming in, like you should try this product? Are you able to give that element of consultation as well?
Yeah, you're asking a question that many of our customers are asking today, right? They're saying like, hey, you guys are delivering such extraordinary value for us. You probably know all these other things. We're very careful with that question. The first reason why we're very careful is because we keep all of our customers' data segmented, and we don't give any sort of advantage to another customer from another customer that we have on board. And so that's super important for us. The second piece strategically as we think about this is because we're in a marketplace, right? We work with the vendors and we work with the retailers. We have to be very thoughtful about how that marketplace works. And so to answer your question in short, Kim, right now we do not offer that. And if we did offer that, we would think about it quite thoroughly in terms of the right way to do that.
I guess it makes sense because that's more like feeding into the system that you're trying to break rather than.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, I get it.
So, Stefan, to just go back a little bit to the topic, how grocers can compete with companies like Amazon. What is coming up as the answer currently? We talked about fresher foods, right? So people want fresher items. That's a competitive advantage for whoever's offering that. There's risks associated with offering fresher food in terms of waste. So you guys are solving that element. So it makes it worthwhile for the grocer to go ahead and offer fresher food items and also compete. We talked a little bit about the potential of also eliminating waste. That could be an advantage in terms of, competing with everything that gets packaged, delivered to package. Consumers really like that. What else? Is there anything else that's emerging as people and grocers are adopting this as a competitive advantage to the big box retailers like Amazon?
Yeah, listen, there's two ways to look at this. There's the way to look at it and saying, hey, what are the offerings that Amazon has to the consumer that are meaningful? Things like delivery or self-checkout. And there's a lot of focus on the side that is the consumer side. But my argument is actually for grocers to win and to maintain or gain market share compared to Amazon is everything that is the back of house. How do you make sure that you have really well operating systems such that you can have food come in, you have full shelves, so it's available for your customer, of the freshest product, of the best product? Because the reality as a consumer, although a lot of the things matter, like having delivery, having a really easy way to shop, what's super important is to be able to have the products that you actually want. And you want them to be really fresh and to be of really good quality. If you can hit that, then you can perform extraordinarily well. From our standpoint, the reason why the grocers we work with are gaining market share is simply because those products are actually available to the consumer, and that matters a ton for them.
It matters a ton, and I like this idea of fix what you can fix, right? So go against the David and Goliath, go against the Goliath in the way that you can, and just work on that niche and making that particular element stronger. And honestly, maybe this is wishful thinking, and maybe this is hopeful, but I really do feel that in the upcoming generations, there's going to be this shift back toward homegrown, local. I mean, I see it in the millennial generation of actually not being so interested in the Goliaths anymore. This pendulum back toward the Davids, and in that sense, I think what you're offering, David, is exactly what he needs, right? In that slingshot, if you get my metaphor.
Totally. I think you're absolutely right. If you look at us consumers, there's a reason why fresh is rapidly growing in grocery stores, right? We care about these kinds of products, and that is moving quite quickly. And then you see a lot of these independent grocery chains that are succeeding really well, that are gaining market share because they offer what matters to the consumer.
Thank you. So what matters to Shelf Engine and your company? Why do your people want to work with you? What is making your company culture different and successful? And what type of people do you look for to work with you?
Yeah, listen, we're doing something that's really complex, right? And it's working at scale. The question today is, can we massively reduce food waste in this country? And can we help these businesses, these grocery stores, perform really well, right? Have the products available for the consumers. In some of these categories, we're talking food waste rates of like 30 to 40%. How do we take that down to the low single digits? We can do that, right? That's the exciting thing. If you're passionate about this, you should absolutely come in contact with us. Apply for the roles here. It's a wonderful team. We're making amazing impact with some of the largest grocers across the country. And like, how else could you make that large of an impact in the environment? I would absolutely say, if you're listening to this right now, would love to have you apply to join the team.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And I'm guessing, is there application? Can this be expanded out to restaurants as well? Is that coming up?
So we do food service. And so food service, we work with quite a few hospitals, corporate campuses, and so forth. We don't work with as specifically restaurants, but eventually we will get there.
Excellent.
Great.
Well, it's we're coming up on time. It's been great to have you as our guest. We wish you a lot of success with the platform. We wouldn't be. We have one final question, and that's, what's your journey been like to do this? You're very passionate about this space. What have you learned about yourself, pursuing this?
I'm really glad that you asked this question, Tulio, because the path for entrepreneurship is actually working on oneself quite a bit. We think about it working externally, but actually most of it is working internally. I have gone through so many phases and so many growth spurts being in my role. I am eternally grateful for the opportunity to be able to do something like this. For me, it has been the greatest lesson, the greatest focus has been in the world of creativity. Is how do you, and it's core to human nature, how do you land in the world of creativity to build something, to conceive of something, to have a vision? And that has pushed me so far. I've learned so much. I've been so humbled. And again, I'm honored to be in the world of creativity.
Amazing. The path of entrepreneurship is also the path to self-realization. I love that. So thanks for being with us, Stefan. Stay with us as we go off the air in just a minute. Carlos, we got one more show tomorrow, right? What do we got coming up?
One more show, Julio, indeed. And that will be with Pedro Goes. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Goes, as in goes. And the CEO of In Event. The topic, well, how the virtual marketplace is refitting event services professional. So that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow right here on Dojo Live at 12 p.m. Pacific. So everybody join us here and stay safe, everyone. And thanks, Tulio, Kim, and of course, Stefan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.